Akame Ga Kill was everywhere, from cringy posts, AMVs, to any terribly edited quotes with a character of this anime got your back. Now, you know where I'm getting here when you already decided to watch this video? I think the show was bad, but what if I tell you that this anime is ranked number 30 on my anime list most popular section? That this show is only a close second to Dragon Ball in ratings at Toonami, and that it has the record of being the most watched series premiere in Toonami history? Well, if you're wondering why it was that popular, it's really just because it was in the right place at the right time. The 2010s was a resurgence of popularity for edgy or gory anime since the 90s that every outcasted online kid would eat them up like a 4-year-old watching Cocomelon, Another, Elfen Lied, Bloodsea, Deadman Wonderland, and of course, the most iconic of them all, Tokyo Ghoul. As long as it has violence and edgy characters, that is cinema for them. And it just happened that this show has all the formula needed to be at the forefront of fake, deep, edgy anime. Akame Ga Kill is one of the best pieces of media Japan has to offer if you think you look like this guy. So, why is it bad? And how did this anime somehow get worse that even its fans hated it? Although we're going to dive into the whole anime, you can already see the signs in the very first episode. Tatsumi is a villager who wants to be an imperial soldier in the capital with his other friends in order to make money for their village. But because he has no idea about the capital, things didn't go well. He even got scammed like an NFT user, although still not as bad as an NFT user. Now with no money, food, and a place to stay, he was luckily found by a rich family. As he stayed in their home as their assistant before getting told that they apparently endorsed him to the military, the guards told him about this group of assassins called Night Raid, who were supposedly on the hunt for bad people in the capital. But shockingly, this family was the next target. No one was spared by the assassins, so Tatsumi protected the daughter, wondering why they would target an innocent family. But what the assassins revealed in the warehouse shocked Tatsumi to the core. He saw many bodies, abused, drugged, and tortured, including his friends. He said that this family did all of this as a hobby, that they would lure travelers by offering them laced food that would leave them unconscious, and then their unconscious bodies would be brought here. After realizing this, Tatsumi dealt the final slash, but unfortunately, his friends were beyond saving. And as his last friend died, friends he grew up with, to show you how important these characters are to Tatsumi, he cried and the tone changed like they were just NPCs who died. And now that he already experienced how evil this empire is, with anger and determination in his heart, Tatsumi decided to join the Night Raid, promising to eradicate every sign of corruption and oppression in this country that is led by the Prime Minister and the Puppet Emperor, while they're preparing for this massive revolution that will hopefully end all of this madness. The plot twist at the end of the episode was a pretty good setup of what will this anime bring to the table, and it sure looks that way. They did a good job of convincing us. Except it's not, because this episode is pretty fucking stupid. First, let's have a game called Rewind Time. So when Tatsumi was offered to stay at the mansion to do guard duties and all that, which leads to this plot twist, why would they even let him live? Because that didn't happen to them. They were captured the moment they had their first meal. So why delay his? He's not any different from them. He's also just a country boy. They will gain nothing for letting him be free for longer. So basically no reason was told. The only reason is that so Tatsumi could be alive for this plot twist. That's literally it. This is one of the main faults of the anime. Forced narratives. The author was willing to ignore common sense itself just to fit a narrative or moment to progress the story. And I'm cringing, realizing that I used to think this was a cool plot twist when I was a teenager. I was blinded by how cool being heroes of the darkness was. I was like, holy shit. Bad people pretending to be good? Yo, this is deep. This is just like society. This is exactly what this anime stood for. This anime will include adult themes like gore, vigilantism, and a plot about oppression, not to tell a story or a message, but to sell an aesthetic. Edgy teenagers would like to imagine themselves as mature by watching it. And if you think this is all of it, then you're absolutely wrong. Because we have to continue on this painful journey. So after the first episode, it's just an introduction of the characters. The lead girl, the big sister, the tsundere, the bad ones,
Oh, hell no!
the comic relief, the bro, the airhead, and the senior, who I would let her do unimaginable things to me. Speaking of which, I loved their special weapons. The Imperial Arms, 48 weapons made by master smiths from mythical creatures and rare metals that hold diverse powers and abilities, where a battle between wielders will always end up with one dying, except those times that it didn't. From a sword that can kill you with just one slice, to being able to transform into an Amazon beast with these abilities, and many more. If you've watched my Hitman Reborn video, you can watch that video after this if you haven't. You know that I love creative weapons, because this leads to creative battles. In fact, my favorite weapon here is Lobok strings that can act as a shield, an armor, a trap, a spear that can also return to strings halfway, and much more. I also like his clever ways of using his strings to deceive his enemies. He may not have the flashiest fights, but it's pretty satisfying to see him pulling the strings against his opponents. Now back to the plot. As they complete their missions by assassinating random targets, we get to know the team better. Some of them had their own backstories, which is pretty cool. And oh, what a wonderful, clumsy, and adorable lady. Her backstory is pretty f***ed up and a bit concerning, but that's fine. Everyone has their own colors in their lives. Even if this one is full of red flags, she's still a nice girl. She even lets Tatsumi cry for his friends, which is something he should have done right after their deaths in episode 1. But I digress. Man, I wonder how she will be at the last Oh, she's dead. Well, that's a fucking shame, isn't it? This is another one of the main reasons this anime is bad. Not because there are deaths, of course not, but this anime loves to kill off characters prematurely. And not only that, some of them died because they were stupid, which includes this woman. Now, let's have context on how she died. So, Shell and Mine are battling against this woman with a living Imperial arm, and fought they did. Pretty normal so far. This is when it was mentioned that as soon as the user is dead, it will stop functioning immediately. Take note of this, because it came to a situation where the dog was mauling Mine and Shell had already cornered the opponent despite the distraction she did, and she was just right there, ready to be that scissors paper, which would also stop the dog and save her friend. Now, I would like you to take a guess. What this woman did in this situation. She stopped the dog. She stopped the dog, which led her to getting shot, which led her to being dog food. Top 30 most popular. This woman just had a backstory 1 episode ago, and they just logged her off, and with a pretty stupid reason at that. And the thing about her is that she doesn't need to die here. Like, the story will progress regardless of whether she's alive or not, because she hasn't left that much of an impression. So why? Like, why? They can't even tell how her death will not be in vain. Okay. Wait, what? Bitch, I mean, man. They're the ones who created the weapons. They know that already. The author, once again, forces a stupid reason for Shell to get her life retired, to have this narrative of how dangerous this way of life is, and that they're these agents of the darkness, risking their lives and their own humanity to help the people. Which is true, by the way, but this is not the way to show it. The only plausible reason for her death is so this girl can get her revenge and have her character development, which is not a bad thing. But it really does lessen the impact when the person she's avenging is a fucking idiot. By the way, you know this bro dude Tatsumi looks up to as his mentor? Well, he's also dead. By finishing 2 out of 3 subordinates of this villain hired by the Empire, with his only major contribution is him giving Tatsumi his Imperial arm. Imagine wanting Kamina from Gurren Lagann like a cell phone, but your mom bought you this bootleg toy instead. Although I agree that his death has an effect on Tatsumi for him to get stronger, I think it's still a bit too early to press the button. This is what this series gets wrong about character deaths. They're not supposed to be done to provoke a shocking response, but to provoke an emotional one. And you can't do that if you haven't given enough time to flesh them out and make them irreplaceable in the anime. By the way, I take back the cell phone comparison earlier because this was actually a banger toy, don't at me. So as we continue, the pace is starting to rile up as our heroes go against the Empire. Or I should hope so, because Now with the team lacking members, they had to recruit new teammates and to relocate to another base of operations. The cheeky one who can disguise as anyone, and the silent one who is a humanoid imperial arm owned by Najenda. Now, the reason that they did the relocation is because they suspect that their base might be compromised by the villains, so our characters will have to relocate to a more remote place. Speaking of villains, the main villain here is Esdet, a very powerful ice element user that can take armies by herself. And I like that, because we need more ice representation in anime. Now character-wise, she's initially interesting, because despite being a sadistic warmonger, she wanted to fall in love, and then fell in love with Yugasu, Tatsumi. Of course it's Tatsumi, it's not gonna be the comic relief. So as they spent time together when she kidnapped Tatsumi, and this other time they were teleported by the enemy to an island, he found out that she has this duality of being a mass murderer and being a maiden in love. And for some reason, became the most popular character in the series. Gee, I wonder why. But that is all there is to it, because this is not the anime to look for complex characters. This anime is for edgelords who post anime is for kids, then show the most garbage, fake dark anime you'll ever see. Oh, and in case you're asking about the Prime Minister and the Emperor, well, this one is bad and evil, and this kid is stupid, and that's pretty much it. Also, Esdet has assembled her new group in opposition to Night Raid for aiding the Revolutionary Army. They're basically the parallels to our characters, so not all of them are exactly bad people, except for the psychos, which is great. You can't even flesh out this team, so you had to add another one. Basically, this is the anime's terrible attempt to have a two sides of the same coin narrative. The only notable characters here are this guy, who is supposed to be Tatsumi's counterpart, and Akame's totally mentally stable sister, who loves her so much, she wanted her to meet Harambe for leaving her behind. All in all, despite all of the new characters, I didn't feel the plot progress at this moment of the anime, because the fights and the moments didn't feel like it was going towards this big revolution they'd been preparing. They're still randomly fighting with no plot direction, with bad guys randomly appearing for no reason at all, and subplots that are poorly executed. But wait a minute, did I say revolution? Revolution. What the f is that? Oh yeah! There is a revolution about to happen. Wait, what? Although I am summarizing the plot here, but when I watched the anime, I was legit not informed on how exactly this revolution was being prepared. I mean, there's this invisible revolutionary army that supposedly funds Night Raid, but all they did before we got here was take random bad guys, got wasted themselves, and here we are. Like, I know a revolution is coming, but you don't just tell us, oh, it's a revolution, a dance revolution. It needs to show all of the events that led to this revolution. I mean, there could have been moments that I forgot, but that's the problem. It should not be forgettable. The only memorable mission that actually helped the revolution was taking the spy down from a religious group that supported the cause. And this was mentioned in fucking episode 15. If you're having a story about revolution, political drama is to be expected, like the scheming, espionage, inter-faction conflicts, betrayals, power play, and all that. But instead, this anime only just wanted to be this team versus this team as our mushy little brains turned off. This is like skipping the boring pages of a novel or playing a game while skipping all of the cutscenes, so you had no idea what led you there. Speaking of skipping a page, mine and Tatsumi are a thing. Apparently. Where's the romantic development, you ask? I don't fucking know. This woman blushed 1 to 2 times in the early episodes, and then they hit it off on episode 19 when she defeats the one who defeated Shell, and then they kiss as she died in episode 21. And it really begs the question, did I miss a page? What is this? A Your Lie in April speedrun? And now as we reach the end, of course, many will go 6 feet, so we need to have a death counter and discuss how meaningless they are in 3, 2, 1, go! Right before the revolution, the author decided to end off Chelsea because I don't fucking know, and frankly, I did not care. She literally was killed right after her backstory. I barely felt her presence in the group, so why would they care? The next one on the list is Lubbock, the one I kinda felt a bit sad, because turns out, logging off the characters you actually had fun with can be pretty sad. But this only happened because he was alive for longer. Too bad the group couldn't care enough because of Tatsumi. Susano was defeated gallantly by S-Det, then Mine, like I mentioned, died as she kissed Tatsumi. The bad thing here is, she died because of defeating generic soldier number 69 here. And now, we're talking about the final two, Leone and Tatsumi. Yes, the MC. Let's talk about it. Now, these deaths are pretty hated, even by the diehard fans, which is saying a lot because 1. Tatsumi died by defeating the Puppet Emperor who's not even that strong, 2. By a Mecha Imperial arm that was only shown in 1 episode, and 3. Because he saved the people who were about to get hit by the falling mecha, meaning he died a pretty anticlimactic death. No disrespect to the people saved here, but this is not how you end a main character. Finishing off a main character needs to mean a lot. Basically, it could be for anything that will wrap up the entire series. But this happened, and because of all of the baseless deaths left and right at this moment, you couldn't even care enough. The characters felt so disposable and worthless, especially because some of them were gone before you get invested in their stories and characters. This anime's whole shtick is basically, yo, you know that plot armor trope we all love and hate? Yeah, what about that? What if everyone dies for no reason instead? I'm a genius, right? Automatically thinking it's a good idea because it's unusual. Instead, it actually makes you think about the importance of plot armor when it comes to storytelling, if done right of course. Because, turns out, an MC dying before the final battle is pretty whack. Now we go to the stupid one. Imagine this, a woman who is physically strong and athletic. How will you end this character? Well, she will be embarrassingly shot by an obese prime minister by using an anti-imperial arm. Why the f*** are you just standing there? I mean, she still did finish him, but if she's still strong enough to do this without the beast mode, I'm pretty sure she could have stopped him from shooting the gun. Because she was not weakened, she just reverted back to her human form. The author really looked at this Amazon and said, yes, I want this unathletic slug to finish her and make her look weak. Because that's base as f***. And then the anime ends with Akame Ga killing as that. Yes, I said the thing. Like, comment, and subscribe for more original jokes. Leona saying goodbye, hanging out with her neighbors before bleeding herself to death. If she can still hang out with those gunshot wounds, why didn't she ask for medical attention? I don't f***ing know. And after that, the empire is being reformed by the survivors of the revolution. The end. This has got to be one of the worst final 2 episodes of an anime I've ever seen. In just 2 episodes, they somehow made this anime worse. A lot of them say only the ending was trash, and I disagree. This anime went from bad to absolute hot garbage.
I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
The anime has forcefully put on the wrong jigsaw puzzle pieces in order to show that this anime is full of bloodshed and tragedy and uprising, when it's only just a brain-dead edgy shonen anime that can't even narrate the plot properly, with characters you cannot care enough because they keep dying prematurely, and with some actions here that are just plain stupid. I have made videos about terrible anime for 2 times in a row now, and with the mental effect it gave me while making these videos, I think it's time to stop. It's time to sit back, reflect, and introspect, and I believe that after all of this, there's one lesson that I have finally learned. No, it's the lesson I'm denying to accept. The lesson I can learn from watching garbage anime on purpose is that I really need to go out and touch some oh god damn it. So, I did read the manga, because the popular opinion here is that apparently the anime deviated from the manga and the manga is better than the anime. Maybe I was being a little too harsh to this cutie patootie. It could just be another Tokyo Ghoul situation of bad adaptations, or maybe it's a rent-a-girlfriend kind of bad. Okay, maybe not that bad. Now, first of all, in the manga, some of them didn't die, and although there are still a lot who died, this woman was still an idiot. At least Leone died a better death than in the anime, where she actually fought a capable version of the Prime Minister, and after she died because of falling several feet to the ground, she gave herself a little more time by fusing with her Imperial arm, and after beating the Prime Minister, he was butchered by the same people he oppressed, and you know the rest. The plot, despite being your generic dark fantasy, is a bit more cohesive than in the anime, because it actually shows the story while telling the story. like a visual media should. The same goes for the characters. They are a bit more fleshed out here because of more scenes, dialogue, and flashbacks. Pretty good so far. But of course, it has to be brought down by the excessive violence and sensitive stuff that is somehow more distasteful than the anime. In this manga, not only the violence was really excessive, there were a few unnecessary implications of sexual abuse shown here. And of course, they were just there only for shock value and to convince the readers how evil the capital is, not to develop the characters or enhance the plot. And I am sick of this. I really am. You know what? We, as a society, we need to stop correlating explicit content as mature and deep just because it's not meant to be watched by kids. All in all, the manga is fine. Although I agree that the manga is better than the anime, I wouldn't call it a great one either because it still has some of the main problems in the anime. So in other words, I would call it mid. However, even though the plot and the characters are not special by all means, I can see why people could enjoy the manga. I mean, it even has its own universe with a prequel and a sequel with a different setting and MC. But once you put logic in things, you will realize that Akame Ga Kill is still a shonen series that is horribly trying its best to be a seinen. This series wasn't all that great. But if there is one thing I can remember this series got right, it's got to be an agenda.